This is a 10-day shoot that I shot in my apartment. I want to be realistic because sometimes people are like, just go make your movie. And that is a very classist idea because you have to have a little bit of disposable income in order to feed people, which is the bare minimum that you need to do if you are going to keep people for 10 days.
You're listening to the Slamdance First Film Podcast.
I'm Michael Gallagher.
And I'm Jana Gallagher.
A podcast all about the making of your first feature-length film.
Today on the show, we're talking with Mo Perkins, the co-writer, director, producer behind A Quiet Little Marriage, which won the Grand Jury Prize at the 2006 Slamdance Film Festival. It was released in 2008 by IFC Films.
Jana and I have had the pleasure of knowing Mo personally for many years now. Also, Mo happened to be my directing teacher at the New York Film Academy. So we have a lot to talk about.
Now, please enjoy our interview with writer-director Mo Perkins.
Hi, my name is Mo Perkins, and my first feature was A Quiet Little Marriage. I was shot in 2008. I was 1 year out of grad school, living in Los Angeles and coming from kind of film school background. I had made a ton of shorts. I had been to a handful of film festivals, and in the film business, I'm going to say that I knew no one personally making films like that. And I believed I could make a film because I didn't really know that I wasn't supposed to be able to make a film. So I just did.
What drew you to filmmaking in the first place? What made you want to tell stories?
I grew up on a hippie commune in Tennessee, and we did not have television or movies. When I was 8 or maybe 9, the commune got a projector and 2 prints, 35 millimeter prints. One was Alien and the other was Close Encounter of the Third Kind. And everybody carried their sofas out into a field. The screen was made of sheets, and we screened these movies, and it blew my mind. I was so enamored with what I was seeing. Years later, when the commune kind of dissolved and my family moved off the commune from Tennessee to California, we weren't immigrants, but we were cultural immigrants because we had come from this bubble universe into mainstream America. So we found ourselves on the weekends going to the Coddingtown cinemas in Santa Rosa. We had to take a bus or get dropped off, and we would go to the first movie of the day, whatever it was, and we would watch it, and then we would cinema hop. So I think I just fell in love with movies as a way to figure out what it was to be a human being.
And so just to break the fourth wall here, we know each other. We go way back.
Oh, yeah.
All of us go way back.
I love this story.
But actually, we go so far back that you taught me directing.
I know, Michael. I love you so much. It makes me so happy.
The tools that you've given me, I still use to this day. So you can take credit or the blame for whatever has happened with me.
I feel like that's the kit that we just pass on to each other. You know, besides the passion which we bring for ourselves, all of those tools, somebody passed them to me and said, here's what I love. Go find your thing. It makes me really happy that I got to do that with other people.
You're just out of UCLA. You had your short film Piss Hat, which
Yep.
was nominated for a Student Academy Award.
Yeah.
Talk about going from being in grad school to then going and making your first feature.
Piss Hat was my thesis film at UCLA. I had made, a handful of other shorts. I wanted to kind of up my game in terms of what I could do visually, just visual aesthetic. And also I wanted to kind of compete. I wanted it to have a little bit of polish. I wanted to talk about gender issues and femininity and sexuality. I wrote this weird little short, and I wanted to shoot 35 because I thought that was the fanciest thing you could possibly do. I went about trying to just grab resources. I got some grants. That was amazing. And then a little magic happened. I had casting sessions, and this amazing actress, Mary Elizabeth Ellis, floored me. She can cry on cue, which is just like amazing. But she's got these huge eyes that are just full of soul, and you could put her in a dark room and they just reflect light. I cast her, and Cy Carter, who was an actor that a friend at USC had used in his short film, those two became Piss Hat. And really, honestly, out of that experience, I think it was a 3.5 day shoot. A lot of relationships came out of those 3.5 days that continued.
And then from that, you used your 2 leads for your feature, A Quiet Little Marriage. So that kind of parlayed into realizing that you could just go and do it.
It's not like I came up with a feature and was like, cast them.
Yeah.
It actually was very different than that. I got out of film school. I had no idea how to make money at all. And I came from a family that didn't know how to make money. So poor all the way back. I had all these skills, but I didn't know how to monetize them. And I just had this big dream. I was living in Angelino Heights in this little apartment, and Cy Carter and his wife, Genevieve, Cy, who had been in my thesis, was living right above me, and I was living right below him. And he was trying to get a career going as an actor. He'd been in a couple features, and I was trying to get going, and we would meet on the back fire escape and just kind of lament how little was happening in the direction that we wanted to have things happen. And I had a super sweet tooth, like everyone, for Cassavetes, who in my mind had just pulled together people that he loved and made film. And so one day on the back stoop, I was like, you know what, Cy? We have a house. We have actors that we love. I know a whole bunch of people from film school. We should make something. It will make us feel better. We should just make something. And he got excited. And then we looped in Mary Elizabeth, and we all got together one afternoon, and we were like, what do we want to talk about? What's relevant in our lives right now? And we had all just gotten married within like a year of each other. And we were all talking with different perspectives with our partners about possibly becoming parents. So we threw that in and we said, okay, we're going to do that. The original idea was for me to write scenes, have them improvise and work out the scenes together in a rehearsal process, for me to go rewrite based on what we discovered, and then for us, with no money, to shoot on the weekend for like a year.
Kind of an indie Mike Leigh sort of.
It was
form.
very indie Mike Leigh. When we got ready to start shooting, it was too hard to get through every weekend or every other weekend. It just wasn't going to work. We had things in the script where the seasons changed. It was a visual trope that you could get without money if you had no money and you had time. You can watch things change. We wrote that out, and we wound up scheduling and figuring out how to do a 10-day shoot with almost no money, but a very scaled down crew that we could shoot in our apartments. His apartment and my apartment are identical architecturally. So we kind of took over half the building, and wherever we weren't shooting, upstairs or downstairs, that was production offices. And we just lived in our film.
In 10 days. Wow.
I know.
Mo, how did you do it?
What
10
So
days.
stupid, right? I know. Well, there was no fat on that film. 2 or 3 takes, and sometimes 1 or 2 takes on things. I was super prepared. We wrote it for like 8 months and rehearsed it while we wrote it. So I'd been living with this script. I had it very clear in my head. I knew exactly what it was. We just ran.
It's interesting that you were able to rehearse it too, because I feel like nowadays rehearsal is less and less common. So having that time, you can work with your actors. So when you show up on the day, everyone's just ready. That's so huge.
It was huge. And they had an ownership. They had created their characters. The level of preparation that went into that 10 days, I will probably never get again.
It's great that you brought these actors in. They have a stake in it. And then they're really interested not only for the movie to be good, but for the movie to succeed, for them to come off great, to help with resources. How much in the producing process were they helpful in getting, say, supporting cast or other elements that you needed?
They brought the relationships for our supporting cast. When we say supporting cast, this is a 10-day shoot that I shot in my apartment. And so I'm going to say 85% of the film is 2 people in a room talking, and then 2 people in a different room talking. But we do have a couple scenes with other actors, and those actors, Mary Elizabeth brought Charlie Day, who was and is her husband, and we had Melanie Lynskey, who was a friend of both of theirs. The crew was 90% people either I had worked with on Pitch Hat or literally just other students who had come out of UCLA. It was very like kitchen sink. Everybody bring a piece, and it was all in the family.
So what would you say the budget was, or was there a budget? Was the idea just as low as possible? Please come have fun on this movie.
Was that you kind of funding it, or?
That was 100% us. And I want to be realistic, because sometimes people are like, just go make your movie. And that is a very classist idea, because you have to have a little bit of disposable income in order to feed people, which is the bare minimum that you need to do if you are going to keep people for 10 days. You have to feed them, and you have to rent some equipment. And our budget was a patchwork of some money from Hal's grandfather and some credit cards. And it was like $80,000, which is a lot of money, a lot of money, and no money.
There's this weird thing in indie movies where it's somehow to get anything done, it costs so much. Yet, by standards of studios and things, it's like, oh, like that's less than the budget of the snacks.
An episode of television, one episode of television, something that you would think of as coming out of a studio cost, and a guerrilla film is huge. Not to say that a guerrilla film is something that everybody can achieve, because, I mean, I think you can, but even if you're talking about the lowest amount that you've ever heard is $5,000, $5,000 is still a lot of money.
When you make an indie film, you're doing it, it's a leap of faith. It's a creative concept that we're going to go out and we're going to try and achieve it.
We were in a good space with it because everyone involved in it was looking to start a career. So no one was going to get money out of it, but we paid just a tiny bit. But everyone had something that they wanted out of it that was valuable besides money to jumpstart their career.
On set, was there a moment where you felt like everything was clicking, or what was the feeling as you're filming?
I mean, I was thinking about this when I realized what you wanted to talk about was A Quiet Little Marriage.
Yeah.
I went back and kind of refelt what it was like to be there. It was really joyous. There were hard days. There was one day that we didn't make it and we lost a scene, and that scene is gone from the movie forever. And I kind of missed it. Mostly I think we knew the second the camera rolled and the actors were good, really, really good, everyone kind of felt excited. And even though we were dead run and everybody knew we were dead run, there was never a scene where we didn't feel like we were getting something really beautiful.
I think that's actually key, because in every movie we do, there's always a moment where everyone's watching monitor and it's good and it permeates through the crew and they're like, that's why we're here. It fuels you.
You need a reason to be there because the work is hard. Oftentimes the reason is because I need to get paid. And if you can't do that for people, there have to be other reasons. This is an opportunity for me. I'm usually a PA and here I'm a gaffer. For me to step up my resume, but also in order for it to be useful for that, I have to feel like it's something that I'm going to be proud of and I want to show people.
What did you shoot on?
Mini DV.
You shot on mini DV.
That's amazing.
That's incredible. And
I
was
know.
it equipment that you owned or you were borrowing or rented?
No, we rented. Eric Zimmerman shot it and he's a genius and I love him. And we got these like adapter lenses so that we could put film lenses on this funny little camera to make it a little bit nicer than just a digital. There's a place, I don't even know if it still exists, but there's a place called Wooden
Of course.
Okay, we rented our equipment from Wooden I think. And not the camera Eric had to hook up, but everything else, like any lights or flags or whatnot, we got from Wooden And the gift of them is that you can rent from them and they also insure you. And insurance is very prohibitive when you're trying to make a film for no money, because insurance can cost more than anything else that you're doing. We had to have some insurance because we had SAG cast and we had to insure, I think, that camera.
But that's a secret because it is all about the lenses. I always say that.
And knowing, like, you can shoot on anything. It's knowing what it is that you want to do.
Yeah, what you want to say. Yeah.
Danny Boyle did 28 Days Later on mini DV. I think it was an XL1 or XL2. Yeah.
Wow.
Sean Baker did Tangerine on an iPhone.
On an iPhone. Exactly.
And I think when you go to film school, you're taught use the fanciest, most expensive, state-of-the-art equipment possible. And that stuff's great. Those are great tools, but they're not the only tools that you can use, especially if you can't afford it.
Well, they're just that. They're tools.
But there are all these fancy pieces of equipment that filmmakers really feel like, oh, it's not a real movie unless I shoot on 35 or I shoot on the Alexa. But that's just not true. That's just a myth.
People get distracted and they think that art comes from the tool. It doesn't. Art comes from the artist. That said, you guys, I love a big old crane. There are some beautiful tools. And when you get your hands on them, of course, it's a giddy, fun experience. But know what you can do with all your tools.
And then jumping into the post process for A Quiet Little Marriage, kind of walk us through that process.
Yeah, we cut it in the same apartment that we shot it. Julia Gandelzonis was my editor. She came over. We sat together. We finished a cut in it was like 2 weeks. And part of it was that we did not have a lot of options. So it was very much put the movie together, see if it worked, and then tweak little bits. And I remember that a lot of the tweaks were just tiny things. They were performance based. Like, oh, he loses it a little bit too much here in this scene, and we'd like to save that for 2 scenes down. So let's trim back and have that. Don't let him go there in that performance. Use the second take. We had everybody, not the actors, just the P and the producer over, and we sat on our couch, and I remember watching it all the way through with no sound. And the producer, Angela Sostri and Tamara Maloney, produced this. And they started crying, and Angela said, "Oh my God, it's a real movie." And that was kind of it.
With no sound?
Well, with
No
no
sound.
sound work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You didn't show a silent cut of the film.
Yeah, it was silent. It's actually a silent movie.
No, I was curious actually, because I actually love watching things without sound. Sometimes I'll do that to see if it's working.
I do that all the time. I do that actually a lot in prep. I will watch my favorite movies without sound.
Yeah.
Because it forces your attention to the artifice, the making of the film.
Exactly.
So you can really focus on, oh, that shot, and then cut here. And yeah, you can focus on the visuals.
From making this movie, working on set, achieving your days, what were some of the big takeaways for you?
Directing is a physical job. I felt like I'd run a marathon at the end of this. And I was a baby. So I was fine physically. I was ready to go. But I don't sit down when I direct. I never do. I didn't have a chair because we didn't have chairs. But I really didn't sit down for 10 days. And at the end of it, I kind of face planted. And that's been a reoccurring theme with me every time I make a film. It's just like physically, mentally, I am 100% in that project. I did learn something on that project in particular, which is even though you are too busy to eat and drink because you were focused on what you're doing, 100% eat and drink, or you're going to get dizzy. You have to take care of yourself because it's your job to be 100%. My other takeaway, I think I learned the wrong lesson. Once you tell someone that you made a feature and it did well and you made it in 10 days, they're like, oh, I have this thing that I want to make. Mo can do it. She can shoot 11 pages a day, and I can, but I don't want to all the time.
It's a tricky balance too, because the market for indie films has changed quite a bit. The budgets are getting crunched and the financing is becoming more and more like big stars doing no budget, low budget movies. It's a tricky thing to balance, especially when you have that skill set that can pull off the impossible, because that's what everyone's kind of looking for. How do we pull off the impossible?
There is a line. There is a line where things become not impossible. I was on a project that was very low budget. Somebody came up to me and was like, "You could do this. I've seen somebody shoot 15 pages in a day." And I was like,
"Oh my God,
was it a play? Like, I just set up the it was all like the 15 minutes in a wide. I can shoot that too, but you won't like it." There's a line when things become impossible.
So what if someone were, trying to do their first feature and pull off the impossible? Talk through your directing prep for the film.
I think that is 100% why the film was as successful as it was, because I prepped it for 8 months. I knew that I had no money and no time. And so all that I had was to be 100% prepared. And that is something you can give yourself. Just allow yourself prep and show up day one with a plan for everything. And then, of course, know that you have no money and no time, so things are going to change in an instant on set, and you'll have to adjust. But if you come with a full plan for everything, you're one step ahead.
So you finished the film. Did you know you wanted to submit to certain festivals? Did you have kind of an idea of what you wanted to do with it, or how did you navigate that?
I didn't navigate it. I was like, oh, it would be great to go to Sundance. And we had shot it in such a time frame so that when I finished the film, the Sundance deadline was over. And so I just said, okay, let's go to whatever next festival. Like I didn't have a strategy. I just wanted to take it and screen it and have people see it. We submitted to AFI. I don't know if they have an independent narrative section anymore, but they did. So we submitted there and screened there. Then we went to Austin Film Festival and we got the audience award. Then we submitted to Slamdance and we got into Slamdance, which was a huge gift. I was hugely pregnant. And it was like almost uncomfortable in terms of screening in front of audiences because they would watch this movie about a husband and wife arguing about whether or not to have a baby and trying to sabotage each other, ultimately getting a baby, but not the way you think. And then I would get up with this huge belly.
That's so great.
And at Slamdance, you guys won the grand jury prize.
We did. 100%. That's why we were able to sell the film, because of that Slamdance award.
And you sold the film to IFC. Are you doing this with the aid of managers, sales agents, or is this just navigating it yourselves as filmmakers?
We were navigating ourselves until we got into either AFI or Austin, or right in between there. We found a sales agent. I liked them. It was a company called Circus Road. Their plan was to send out DVDs and just see if the film took. And I didn't realize there's really only a very small handful of places where a film can sell. There aren't that many people who buy films. And back then, tiny little indie films only went to a handful of places. So their big plan was to send out DVDs and see if anybody liked it. When we got into Slamdance, they changed their plan. And I think this is some of the magic of Slamdance. Everyone is going to be there for the festivals. Everyone is going to be there. So you're going to have these screenings. And instead of showing anybody anything, let's see if we can get the buyers to come to the screenings. And they kind of made a grid. And I was like, oh, whatever, no one's going to come. And then they all came. And I think that made a big difference because they saw the film in a packed house with an audience that was really warm and loving and responding to the film. And I think they came out with that. And off of that and the award, we got a couple offers. And I will be honest, the offers were not for money. We got offered about enough money to deliver the film. I loved IFC. I loved what they made. I loved the films that they, brought into the world. So I was happy to go with them. We wanted to make it whether we made our money back or not. So a deal with IFC was great.
You made your first film. It won these great awards at big film festivals, and then it's been released by IFC. How does that parlay your career into the next jobs? Like, where did you find yourself in terms of the indie landscape or the filmmaking landscape?
Kind of right back where I started, but with a little bit more credit to my name. Mm-hmm. Because the film did well and because I could show the film, I found that actors were willing to work with me. Bigger actors were willing to talk to me about projects because they could look at this and see that I had done something. I got a manager who is still my manager. The long road to building a career, let alone a sustainable career, I don't know. Some people seem to rocket ship. It's been slow, but I'm proud of the work that I've done. And I think if you were to ask me what A Quiet Little Marriage brought, it brought me directly to my next project. And it's kind of been that way always. One film leads to the next film.
To somebody setting out to make their first film, do you have any advice that you would pass along?
My main bit of advice is don't be afraid, go ahead and do it, but also create a project that you know you can be successful at. Don't try and make Transformers because you'll end up competing with the Transformers and it won't work. Like, make the film that you have the tools to make. Do the best you can and stretch a little bit. Like, it's impossible to make a film in 10 days, but then you kind of do because there's magic. Create the project that is a stretch for you, is hard, but is personal and isn't an emulation of big budget mainstream cinema, but is something that you can do. And then the thing that worked for me, look around you because you might think that you don't have anything, but you do. There are relationships in your world that you can incorporate into something artistic, like the guy who lives in the apartment above you.
Well, we like to end the show with a little fun lightning round of questions. So,
oh no,
there's
okay.
There's no wrong answers. All right, but buckle up. Here we go.
Okay.
Favorite movie snack?
Oh, Junior Mints.
The first independent film you remember watching?
Go Fish.
Favorite guilty pleasure movie?
I love The Pushers. Have you seen the Pusher series?
Oh yeah, with Mads Mikkelsen.
Yes.
Incredible. Name a film that you love that more people need to see.
Oh, Jesus' Son.
Oh, the Billy Crudup film?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's so good. I think it's her only feature. I just love it, and no one's seen it. You've seen it. I think I showed it to you.
Yeah, I think you did.
Name a movie line or quote that you use in your everyday life.
Oh, no, I'm mad as hell, and I can't take it anymore.
And last but not least, What is the meaning of life?
Oh, God, it's easy. You have to work and keep working at your goals. I find almost more important than achieving them is the act of working towards them. It makes me happy. Is that weird? That's a weird one, but it is. Find something that you love and just keep doing it.
Today's episode was edited by Daniel Angarita, music by Kevin MacLeod, produced by Peter Baxter, QC by Max Brown and Tara Blossom. Special thanks to Paul Rackman and the entire Slamdance team. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.